Hey guys, welcome to Next Level and Everything Next Level. And this is our show that I think is one of the most um, beneficial to entrepreneurs because what we're doing is we're bringing people that aren't just um, quote unquote experts, but they're truly experts. That they've literally lived a life, they've done the practice, they've done the work to be called an expert. And you can look at their life and you can look at what they've done, and you can see that they truly have measured up to what an expert is. And some of them are just have a massive amount of experience in a specific area. Some of them have gone through all the trials and tribulations that have qualified them to be the expert. And I think we all know a lot of people that get out there and they claim to be an expert, they're really not. And so today, we've got somebody that I think is going to be really a benefit to you, but more so than anything else, it's going to be who she is that's going to revolutionize the way you think about you, your business, your clients. And so with that, Donna, welcome.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here, Bob.
Absolutely, thank you. Donna, we all go through stuff, right? We all go through stuff in our life, and we get to the point where we're trying to apply that stuff we've learned over the years. What were some of the things that you learned early on that have led you to this point where now you've done a lot of life coaching, and now you're doing this I'll let you explain how you're going to do this, but you're incorporating the life coaching, which is everything, to specific business principles that can be applied for businesses, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call them. And what is the precipice for that?
Okay, well, that's a big question. Um, okay, so life coaching, yes, life coaching covers a lot, covers all of life. And to me, I kind of naturally was already doing some business coaching anyway with my life coaching because most of the people that I coached had small businesses.
Sure.
And so it's all connected, right? It's like our problems that we're having at home, or if we're sick, or we're struggling with some kind of issues, that's a life coach can help you with that, but then it's going to affect your business too. So that's where I can see like this is going to be so valuable, I think, so that I can now help even more so with the additional training that I've done recently
Yeah.
with marketing and online, all of the online world, to take all of that. And especially we were talking about this a little bit earlier about how people just don't feel confident in themselves.
Yeah.
And so especially artists and creative people, I work with a lot of
Mm.
creatives, and they're so afraid to get their stuff out there. They're afraid of rejection, they're afraid of criticism. So that's really hard.
Mm.
um, can I give you a little bit of like background information about
Sure.
how I ended
Sure.
up as a life
Yeah.
coach? Because it's kind of a, well, I think it's an interesting story. Again, life challenges. It seems like a lot of good comes a lot of times from the challenges, right?
Man.
Okay, so I grew up actually in Michigan. I live in California now, and I went to Michigan State University, and I actually majored there in clinical laboratory science. So I'm a clinical laboratory scientist. I have a license still. I
Wow.
know, right? I have a license in California still. I keep it current because, I worked hard to get that, and so I never want that license to expire.
Good for
So I
you.
have a medical background. I stopped working full time when my kids were little. I have twin boys and a daughter. And so when they were little, I stayed home with them, and we actually decided to homeschool them.
Mm. Nice.
I just have to throw this in too, because I always like to say this is like my badge of honor. I have twin boys, and they were 7 pounds, 10 ounces, and 7 pounds, 5 ounces, almost 15 pounds total of baby.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I did have a C-section, but yeah, I like to throw that in there because that's like part of leading up to all the challenges.
Yeah.
Okay, so I stayed home with them, and I did a little scrapbooking business way back when called Creative Memories. And people
Mhm.
probably, that was a big craze, right, in the late
Yeah. Yeah.
80s, 90s, and then on into 2000. But they actually are no longer in business. But I learned how to do graphic design, which really I started loving and just doing for fun, kind of on
Mm.
my own. So that
Okay.
kind of started to lay the foundation a little bit for where I'm at today. Homeschooled the kids. They're getting older. I decided, they're going to be off to college soon. Maybe I want to start a business, but I really wasn't sure what kind of business. And so I was kind of like throwing around ideas. And then on Father's Day of 2014, I was in the shower, hurrying to get ready to go celebrate Father's Day at my sister's house with my dad. And I found a lump in my right breast.
Mm.
And it was one of those kind of moments where you're like, this does not seem very good. And so it ended up, it was breast cancer. And so in 2014, I was diagnosed with this aggressive form of breast cancer. Spent all 2015 with chemo, radiation, surgery, all of it. And I came out of that now where I have no evidence of cancer now. So
Wow.
thank God for
Yeah.
that. But a lot of good came out of that year. The 2015, I was basically down. I mean, so sick going through this. And so I started reading and I started thinking like, okay, what can I do? Because I need to, like, I was desperate almost, so sick. And I found a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter.
Sure.
Okay, like, yeah, he's a legend, right? And so I read that book and I had this huge, like, oh my gosh, all these years I've been telling myself these crazy stories. You know, we have that little voice in our head, everybody. I'm speaking to the choir when I
Yeah.
talk to you on this, that little voice in our head that is always telling us something, whether it's good or not so good. And so I realized that for many years I was all stressed out from so many things. Maybe that's how I ended up with cancer. I don't know.
Mm.
Right. And so I was so attracted to this idea of learning more that I went and studied in Florida with Dr. Shad. And I was there for a week in Florida. I flew from California out there right at the end of my cancer treatment. So my hair was like barely growing back.
Mm.
But oh my gosh, it was the best experience. And then he had a life coaching program. I decided, oh, I think I'm just going to sign up. I don't know if this is something I'm really ever going to use, but I want, for me, I'm going to learn this stuff. So I went through his program, came back, and I decided, I'm going to start a business. I'm just going to go for this. So in 2016, I started Donna Loeffler International is the name of my business. And since then, I've been doing my life coaching almost 5 years. But this is the thing. This was the pivot, okay? And it might have been you that told me this. Somebody said, and tell me if it was you, don't waste the pandemic, right? When COVID hit in March, don't waste the pandemic. And that really, like, wow, when I heard those words, I thought, you know what, here I am again in shutdown mode almost, where I can't really do, what am I going to do now with all I've learned?
Yeah.
This is kind of like that cancer thing, but not nearly to me as bad, but still people are really struggling, right? I mean, they're locked up, don't have people in connections like they're used to, they're working from home, all homeschooling their kids when they never thought they'd be doing that. A lot of struggles.
You chose to homeschool. A lot of people are being forced to.
Yeah, I loved it. That's why I say, oh my gosh, just embrace it. But this is the thing, don't waste the pandemic. And when you have these times in life, and I think it's always going to be the case, what can you do instead of oh, woe is me, I can't do this and this and this. What can you do? And so almost at that exact time, I had this phenomenal opportunity with two women who founded a company called Funnel Gorgeous.
Hmm.
And you might have heard of them, Kathy Olson and Julie Stoyan. And Julie actually worked with Russell Brunson of ClickFunnels, and she
Okay. Yeah.
became the VP of that company. So lots of experience. I've been following them since the beginning of starting my business. So they just happened to launch a certification program for marketing. And I've been, doing this stuff on my own, like, building websites and sales funnels online and, learning all this technology and teaching myself. And I thought, what, I think again, like for me, I just want to get through this and see if I can learn more. So I signed up for their program and I just graduated like last week, just before Thanksgiving.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. I passed my third exam and it was, I tell you, the hardest thing I have ever done, way harder than college, way harder than, well, from what I remember. I'm sure college is hard too, but it was because I'm 59 years old. And so this is not like, like I grew up with this stuff, right? It's all like learning from scratch. So big pivot, like people are pivoting now because we have to be online more. And so I'm seeing like this huge opportunity now with how many people want to start an online business now because they can so much easier.
Yeah.
They're like everybody is having to do this now, pivot. Here we are on Zoom. And to me, this is like a miracle of technology and a time in history that is like no other.
Yeah.
It's like the world is our territory, our sales territory, the world, and so it's in my heart now to pivot into a new business. I'm calling it the Cyber Launch Lab.
Okay.
And yeah, and so I'm still under my main business, Donna Loeffler International, but Cyber Launch Lab is going to be, I see it as helping startup businesses and helping people who maybe don't have a large online presence or any at all, even, and just eliminating a lot of the confusion and the overwhelm that I went through, like searching for like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Buying all these programs that never was the answer.
Right.
So I want to create that perfect program through the Cyber Launch Lab.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you've explained a couple of things that you went through. What's the one thing, if you could only pick the most important thing you learned by going through your cancer, what was that? That one thing?
Oh gosh, the most important thing going through my cancer, I think it is that you really should never give up hope.
Mm, mm,
And that was even a big part of my life coaching and helping people, is that I was at one point with going through all of that I really didn't think I was going to make it.
mm.
um I was just so sick. I guess it was the chemotherapy that just really zapped everything out of me. But I remember laying there on my bed and just thinking, God, if it's my time to go, just take me. Like, why do I have to keep suffering like this? This is so hard.
Right.
And then, and it was kind of a really dark time in my spiritual life too, because I'm a pretty religious spiritual person. But I felt like God was silent,
Mm,
just silent. And it was almost like sometimes you have to get through those things. That's where you're going to learn. That's like the trenches, right? You're
yeah.
on the battlefield, you're learning the strategy that you're going to need for something future. And so to always just grasp onto that little tiny hope. And I wanted to write a book called The Blessings of Cancer, but I haven't quite
Mm,
done that yet.
why
Maybe
not?
someday. Yeah. But I actually got some feedback from people that didn't like that name, The Blessings of Cancer. How can you dare call cancer a blessing? I said, well, because that's what it is, even though it seems so horrible. I guess
Sure.
that's the big thing. Like there's
Yeah.
always, like, hang on to that hope, because it can and it will get better a lot of times.
So you've gone through this cancer. You've taken it. What is the thing that you can apply today to these people? I mean, look, there's people going through loss of jobs, loss of income, loss of houses, loss of cars, loss of everything. And what is it that you can? I mean, I love the message. Don't give up hope. Don't give that up. But how can you instruct them to do that? And how can you show them to take it by the horns and to do what they need to do, even when they, at this point, maybe have already given up hope? What do you do to the person that's already maybe given up hope?
Wow. Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, it's easy to say, don't give up hope, but doing it is another thing, right?
Sure. Sure.
Um, One thing that has just been really effective for me and in my coaching is that, people come to me and they say, well, I'm not getting along with my husband. We're having terrible fights all the time. We don't, that's one example, where I don't have enough money, or I can't make any money, or
Right.
and I'll listen to what they say. A lot of times repeat that back and say, okay, now what are you going to do?
Mhm.
What next? Are you just going to wallow in this? I mean, you can,
Right.
and that's okay. Sometimes you need to grieve, you need to move past something and work it out by talking. But what are you going to do? What's your first little tiny step that you can take? And even if it's like you're 300 pounds and you can barely move because you're so out of shape, why don't you just start putting your tennis shoes next to your bed?
Okay.
Even if you don't put them on, just so you see that every day, because your brain is so conditioned towards what you can't do. You got to like rewire all of that thinking and create some new thinking.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, but it's totally possible.
So the first thing they need to do is decide what they can do and take a small step.
Yep.
Begin with
Yep.
something, right?
Even
So
if
okay,
it's
so
like,
now that's something you've learned from your cancer. Um, What have you seen with entrepreneurs that have been, whether as a life coach or whether people that you've encountered, what have you seen with entrepreneurs that stops them from really getting the results that they want?
Okay. Well, I would say the big thing is that shiny object syndrome, because from what I've seen, almost all entrepreneurs are creative type people. Even if they don't think they're creative, they are, because entrepreneurs want to create new things always. And they have a lot of them, like myself, we have big ideas. And so, like, I see this huge idea, but where do I even begin? Oh, well, maybe I'll buy that course. And then, you start, no, that isn't, I don't think that's what I need. Maybe I'll build a website,
Right.
and then they get off into the weeds and they spend all their money, and then they don't really have anything to show for it. And so, and again, I'm speaking from experience that I've
Sure.
been through years of searching. So, so I think, really just guiding them in what the really necessary first steps are, and how you don't spend all of your money, and that the things that you really need. And gosh, there's a book that I can't remember the name of. I think it's called The Pumpkin Plan. I don't know if you've heard of that book, but it's about being ruthless and getting rid of, like, you don't need the big office. You don't need, what do you really need to run this business? And the beauty of an online business is you don't need a lot, right?
Right.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of free stuff too that you can use. And so,
absolutely.
so be like having someone help you who's a guide. And I want to create affordable programs for people who don't need to be out there doing all that stuff at the beginning. Just staying focused, taking little steps forward, not becoming overwhelmed so that they go into procrastination and
Yeah.
fear. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got these people that are sitting here struggling right now, in their businesses, and maybe they just started, maybe they're thinking about starting, but that there are three things, maybe take the top three things that they need to be focusing on right now in their business.
hmm Okay. So you want me to tell you the three things I
Yeah.
think?
What would the top three things be according to Donna?
Okay. Well, number one, you need to have a plan. And I don't mean a business plan. You need to have like a realistic plan, because people, again, put all this time and effort into a business plan. And unless you're really looking for funding, you don't need all that.
Right.
And so a realistic plan with something that's doable, that isn't going to cost you a lot of money, and to lay the framework. And I don't really even recommend like laying that out a year in advance. I say like a quarter, like 3 months,
Okay.
just establishing that. And
So
so,
develop a plan.
yeah, so the
Develop a plan.
plan, but part of the plan, like, secondly, now I wish I had embraced this from day one. You need a
Don't.
list. You need a list, right? You need to build a list. And people say, oh, email's obsolete. Well, from everything I've learned over and over and over, that email list is like your gold, because that's your warm market of people who have already said yes to something to get on your list.
Yeah.
And so to start there, and it's really not that hard to start building a list, but again, being consistent. And that's really, I think, the third thing is that, once you develop this plan and this strategy and you start to build this list, to keep doing it over and over and over, even if people unsubscribe or you don't, and so, like, again, not to get off into the weeds of like, oh, every social media channel, like I need to be on everything. I need to be doing YouTube videos. I need to be, just to have a specific plan. If it's just like pick one, Facebook, start doing a live once a week, start, if you want to start to write some articles, a blog is a very good way to start to gain visibility. You don't even need a website, you
Mm.
just need a simple,
Yeah.
and so, and again, like, the technology is so much easier now than it ever has been, so doable. I mean, I can't even believe how great it is,
Yeah.
because I'm like from the typewriter generation, right? Like, my first resume was done on a typewriter.
Mhm.
Like, you couldn't make a mistake.
Right.
Oh man, it's so much better now.
So what are the things, what are going to be your sweet spots in helping people maximize their effectiveness of their businesses? What are the sweet spots for you?
Okay, well, what I would really love to do is work with creative people who have hobby businesses that they would like to bring to the world, because especially older people that have so much wisdom, real life wisdom. I have met people that have these amazing things that they have done,
Hmm.
and they don't think it's any big deal.
Right.
And I just go, "Oh my gosh, like you made that or you create this is amazing. What oh yeah, I have like them all over the house, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, even to maybe teach somebody how to do that, like say they do weaving or something that would be very hard to sell or very expensive. They could teach people how to do that. And so that's like for me, my sweet spot is helping people see their true gifts and talents and things that the potential with that, and then the potential to when they bring that out to the world, how no matter almost no matter what it is, I mean with very few exceptions, almost anything can turn into a business. You know,
Mhm.
even if you're thinking, well, who would want that, there's probably somebody who wants that.
Right.
And so I think too, the other thing is with my healthcare background, my you know, I worked in hospital work for a number of years. I'm always going to have a heart for people's struggles, their illness, their sickness, and how can I help them?
Hmm.
And so this is another thing this is like big ideas, right? I'm delving into teaching some, I guess they would be called yoga classes. They're going to be yoga classes for entrepreneurs, because
Okay.
people who are entrepreneurs now online, we sit at our computer all day. And so sitting, they're saying, is the new smoking.
Hmm. Hmm.
Totally not good for us, myself included again, right? And so I'm just going to focus on one thing, and that's helping people with their hamstring muscles to create flexibility.
Love
Because
it.
when those are tight, those big muscles in your thighs are tight, you can have lower back pain, you can have knee pain, you can even have ankle pain, which is
Sure.
how I kind of came across this. It's called gravity yoga.
Hmm.
And so you do these simple poses. Again, simple is not like those crazy, like, you know, all contorted things, because I can't do those. I'm like not that flexible. And so I want to help entrepreneurs who are like stay healthy too, because it can be stressful. Yeah, it can be stressful when you're just sitting and not taking care of yourself. And so that's another thing that, you know, I think again, like I'm going to give them a whole package, not just, oh, here, you know, build this list, but let's take care of you too, you know, your emotional, your spiritual, your physical well-being, because
Love it.
again, it's all connected. There's no way that you can grow a business and make a lot of money if you're sick.
Right. So
And
with your business experience and with your helping people emotionally, mentally, everything along the way, your business experience, what are the three aspects of business that you think are going to be really it's going to separate you from other people doing similar to things? What are the aspects of business?
okay, well, and I probably look at this different than a lot of people. Number one, if you struggle with numbers, which a lot of people struggle with numbers who are creative people,
Yes.
um, get help. Like again, from day one. Maybe you don't want to hire a bookkeeper right out of the gate, but I was amazed at how inexpensive it really is to get help from a lot of times accountants or bookkeepers, and they're willing to at least show you how to use a spreadsheet and maybe
Mm.
hold you accountable once a month to using it.
Okay.
No, and so I think money, the simplest, like money in, money out, you absolutely have to keep track of that from day one. Like
Okay.
that's so important. And again, helping people who are more of the creative type people not be afraid of that. You
That's
know,
something you can specifically help them with.
helping them with
Okay.
their money mindset, their money story.
Okay. What's another thing?
Okay, let's see. What was okay, the other thing that I again, just bringing in all of the things that I've studied and that I'm good at, is that there's a huge connection between your heart and your mind.
Mm.
I'm also certified in heart math, which is the inner balance technology. But this is real science stuff. Like I love the science behind all of this. And
Right.
so, you know, I'm like a science geek like that, where I like to read the research and see that it's really been proven, right? Well, our hearts put out a certain amount of energy. You know, that's why we can record it with an EKG. It's
Right.
totally legit and 100%. It's not like a lot of woo woo, just talk. It's real. And so what I learned in that program was that our hearts put out this energy and they can even affect people like clear across the room. That heart energy can change that person's heartbeat.
Mhm.
And so it is so powerful and completely connected to our mind and our intuition. Now, to me, intuition is where like our spirit lies. And that's where the gold is. That is where everything that you want, that you ever want lies, is in that intuitive space. But the thing is, when people are all stressed out, they don't know how to use that because they can't. You have to be in a calm state to
Mm.
hear that little tiny voice that's telling you the things that you need to know with our next steps. And in business, like we always have to be ahead of the game. It reminds me of like chess, right? Where you have to know like way ahead. And a lot of it is intuition,
Mm.
just like what are people saying and putting all this together and what are my next steps with my business. And so I call that my unique selling proposition, really, is that I have that ability to help people find that intuition that is, to, again, like gold. Like
Yeah.
that is going to be the thing that's going to propel them forward.
Okay. So
So,
as we begin to wrap this up, I really want you to share with the people that are listening um, what it is that you want them to do next, and then why you're that person that they can turn to for that.
okay. Well, what I would like them to do next, and I think it depends on where they're watching this video right now, like if it was on social media or if it was on my website. But what I would really like to do is have them just schedule a 20-minute conversation with me, which is always complimentary. I mean, I really 100% just want to get to know people because I don't even know if they would be a good fit for what I do. And how do I know if I don't talk to them a little bit? And so 20 minutes, half hour, I have an automatic, scheduler thing on my website where they can just click and schedule.
Perfect.
And yeah, and just have that conversation with me, no strings attached, no sales call. It's just a matter of like, let me get to know you a little bit so that we can talk and see where you're at, see what your dreams are. So that would be the ideal thing.
Okay. So what's your website that you want them to go to?
Well, my website is right now still under construction, but
We'll
it's
put it as a link. We'll put it as a link.
the cyberlaunchlab.com.
Okay.
And that is going to be, all with the marketing and everything that I've been talking about today and I'm going to have some freebies on there too that will definitely be worth checking out. Just I'm working on right now a report that's the 10 steps that you need to take before you start an online business.
Mm,
So
mm,
that's going to be a free download. So yeah.
nice. Nice. So why don't you give us a teaser on that? What are maybe one or two of the 10 steps?
Okay. Well, I kind of already told you some of them.
Okay.
But it's okay. It's 10 steps, but they're pretty all big steps. It's probably not something that you can just overnight do.
Okay.
But number one is just preparing. And I think too, just like determining if what it is that you want to create as a business is really the right thing for you. Like I said, I think you can start a business teaching or selling almost anything. Like there's somebody out there that will buy that thing if you have the right message.
Sure.
But is that really right for you? And that's for me going through the COVID lockdown again. I started to think, what do I really want? Like, like, is this really what I want to do? Is the life coaching with people with all these problems forever, or do I have something else in me?
So
And
how
so,
do you find that out? What would you say to somebody who says, what do I want? Is this really right for me? What would you tell them how to discover that?
oh well, yeah, I would start asking them a lot of questions. And what it amounts to is your whole life story. And there's journaling techniques that I can give. There's ways to really open your subconscious mind to things that you totally forgot about that are so connected to who you are and the things that you love and the things you've always been good at. And then that just opens up a whole new world because once you start to see, I have been doing this for years. Since I was 8 years old, I've been doing this thing. Of
Right.
course, I'm good enough. Of course, this is what's really in my heart. But again, because people are so busy and overwhelmed, they're just trying to think, what do people need? What do people want? It's really for what do you want? What is inside of you? And that's what's going to drive, that's your big why. Why are you doing this? Well, because my mother taught me how to make these amazing quilts, and I do it all the time, and I just take it for granted. But there's people out there that can't do this and want to learn,
Mm.
and so and then that's honoring your mother or your grandmother, or you're honoring the person who taught you that thing. So
So what do you think is more important? Um, Giving people what they want or what you know they need to have?
um I would think I have to twist it up a little bit, and helping them realize what they need. And that would be the answer, because they might want something and they might think they need something.
Hmm.
But, and I call that kind of like the front door marketing. Like, like you put out a message that, yeah, okay, I want to do yoga because I have lower back pain. But then once they start doing the yoga, they realize that they are so stressed out. Kind of like when I realized I was so stressed out for so many years, I didn't even know. I had no idea,
Right.
and so to start to really ask them the questions and delve deeper, and to see, what's really, again, more of inside of them, and what they think they need might not be the real thing.
Right. Right. Wow. All right. So let's do this. We're going to wrap this up, and we are going to we'll put the link in there for people to reach out to you. And the action step that you'd like them to take is to reach out to you and set an appointment for a 20, 30-minute strategy session with you personally, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
That's pretty powerful. So, well, Donna, thanks for hopping on, and thanks for being here. And I love having you as a member of Next Level by Association. I know that sometimes we're busier than other times, and I know you've been involved in this this certification and everything that you've been going through. But I love the fact that you're plugging in, that you're going back, watching some of the videos. I love the fact that you're a constant learner, and I think folks, if you can surround yourself with people who are constantly learning, they're constantly wanting to become even better than they already are, and that's a perfect. Donna's a perfect example of that. So, guys, reach out to her, set up that strategy session with her, and Donna, thanks again for being on, and I look forward to hearing more about as you develop this website, and getting people to go over there and schedule time with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been really a great conversation. Thank you, Bob. You do so much good work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, guys.